I am so excited to be here today with Commissioner Johnson on a special edition of DWeb Decoded coming to you from Davos. I could not be more thrilled to get to meet you and talk to you about all the amazing things that you have done to make regulation in the United States so wonderful for innovation in many different spaces. So I would love to start by asking you a little bit about how you're thinking about cybersecurity. I mean, a topic that is really big at Davos right now, really something everyone's thinking about in a variety of contexts. What are your thoughts on that?
This is a wonderful question. And first, just let me say thanks so much for allowing me to join you. I feel honored and privileged to be in Davos generally, but to be able to join you for this very special podcast. I am grateful also for the time I've had to be in service as a commissioner at the CFTC. I don't think I could be at the CFTC at a more exciting time. To be quite honest, the innovations that we've seen in the most recent years in financial markets, but beyond, to be quite sure, it really has inspired so much change and so many opportunities. So I'm grateful that you all are deeply engaged in expanding the universe of innovation and finding creative solutions to address real world problems. As a regulator, I don't think I could be more enthusiastic about the adoption of innovation that works for our markets, that works for our society more broadly. Cybersecurity is an issue that's close to my heart. During the time that I've been at the CFTC, we've been deeply engaged in a dialogue that I hope will continue in the couple of years to come in the context of the new administration as we really begin to sort out sort of what are the right solutions, what are the right fit solutions, right, to address emerging cyber threats. I know that you all have been deeply engaged in projects that are organized around ensuring cybersecurity, and I think great and successful businesses are regularly focused on how best to protect privacy and security of the data that they are entrusted with. And I think that that's part of a novel, a novelty of the era of innovation, right? We do have access to all of this data. It is really valuable. It is really important. It really boils down to soul searching and engaging in a values-oriented conversation about how best to protect that data, how best to use or preserve that data. And these are questions I know that businesses that we regulate struggle with all the time. And so as a regulator, I'm happy to be partnered with those businesses in trying to find the solutions that work for the businesses and that work for their customers.
And speaking of data and a topic that is on the lips of everyone here at Davos this week, AI. I mean, everyone here is talking about AI, regulation of AI, innovation in the space. What is your take as a regulator on AI?
So this is a great question because in part, I would suggest financial markets have integrated artificial intelligence for a very long time. So predictive technology is something that our market participants are effectively using right now today. And I know that that's true in many industries, right? In fact, part of my coming to the commission and my research and engagement with markets really centered on the extent to which we rely daily on different predictive technologies to facilitate different elements of our society, even more today than ever before. And so artificial intelligence, in my mind, is an assemblage of technologies that really integrates everything from a simple algorithm to the most complex generative AI-oriented platform. And I think part of what we learned from thinking about how we've regulated markets before, we can apply in this context as well. But there are nuances, there are novelties, there are some things that are nascent about this technology that are different than other technologies. So I think we have to take the time to carefully understand exactly what the technology is, how market participants are using it, ways that it can be really valuable and expanding access to people across the world in the context of financial markets, but also, to be quite honest, in disease mapping or disease or accuracy of disease prediction. Like there are many use cases for artificial intelligence and blockchain technologies. And I think we're just scratching the surface of what those use cases are and can be. So a really hard question for the regulators is when and if to intervene. And in my opinion, in the moment, what I think I've encouraged is a dialogue. It's an open conversation between the businesses and regulators about what our goals are when we bring sort of the regulatory lens to bear. What are our concerns and how do we effectively address them without diminishing the benefits of growing responsible technologies, responsible artificial intelligence, responsible blockchain use. This is sort of the really hard challenge. I don't think it's easy, but I think it's worth it. I very much think we get so much out of having a great and clear understanding of what we're regulating and why. And so that dialogue to me is the beginning of that process.
And, I think that's such a great way of looking at AI and really emerging technologies in general. And it's so great to, really have regulators who are looking at these new technologies and saying, we need to understand this and we need to have a dialogue around it. And I guess, how have you sort of throughout your career, not just at the CFTC, how have you thought about emerging technologies and, how to handle all of these things that are just brand new and really changing, not just our entire world, but also, the regulatory landscape?
Yeah. So I would say in every opportunity that I've had, I've been engaged in direct and deliberate conversation that has really been integrating all the parts of my career. I started my career working for an investment bank on Wall Street. And the way that I came to do that wasn't because my parents had been investment bankers. They were probably the farthest thing from that, but they encouraged my obsession with finance from a very early age. And when I landed at a large investment bank, one of the things I knew was there was tons to learn, that there were great opportunities to grow and to learn leadership, but also to learn really important technical, substantive skills. And so I've gone from that to being a lawyer, to being a tenured law professor, to serving in the administration current, and to serving into the new administration as of today. And what I would say is, in my mind, there is no partisanship in attempting to accomplish stability and integrity for our financial markets. I think building the society that we want to leave for generations behind us really begins with just having a commitment on a daily basis to being curious, to being interested, to being open, to being engaged. And I think that those values really have driven me, no matter the career, no matter the job I've held. And so part of that curiosity and interest, I think, really makes it so that I'm able to play in a sandbox with every kind of kid that shows up to play in the sandbox. And I feel like that leads to good outcomes because we are better together. I really believe that having diverse opinions at the table, having people who are really thinking deeply about one issue and others who are thinking deeply about another issue, iron sharpens iron. And so I really feel fortunate that that has been a significant characteristic for most of my career. And I'm really hopeful that I'll continue to be able to give that, whether in industry or in government or in academia, to everyone around me.
I love everything you just said, but I particularly love what you said about partisanship, because I am often asked in the crypto context, okay, so for crypto, is this a partisan issue? And I always say, absolutely not, because on both sides of the aisle, you have big supporters of this technology. And, I always say, frankly, I don't think in 2025, an entire party can be anti a particular technology if they're thinking seriously about the future of America, right? And so I love what you said about partisanship. And, especially at this moment in time, I guess, how are you thinking about the future, the next 4 years and beyond? And, what are your thoughts generally about, moving forward as we think about these technologies?
So this is a great question, and I'll go back to something I said at the outset. I am very enthusiastic about innovation, and one of the ways I've come to be enthusiastic about innovation is spending time all over the world with market participants and regulators all over the world, and spending time with the entrepreneur who founded M-Pesa, one of the most widely recognized platforms globally, but locally launched in Kenya and in East Africa, and launched for the purpose of creating access and inclusion. I really believe that there are technologies that will make it easier for more citizens of the world to participate in the global economy. And so I don't think that that's something that any party has a corner on. I think hoping for the best for all the citizens in our country, hoping for the best in terms of the global economy, is something I think that we share as a common goal. And because I think that's true, when we think about any particular technology, crypto, the underlying digital asset the underlying technology of blockchain, distributed digital ledger technology, going all the way to the roots of it, I think we are suggesting that there are opportunities in the future to accomplish things in ways that we haven't yet began to imagine, to be quite honest. And I definitely think there's nothing partisan about that. I think that innovation and opportunity rest at the heart of what probably most people want for the kids that sit around their kitchen table when they're feeding their families, or for the employees that are part of their businesses. And so I'm hopeful that we can find a path that is really a unified path to getting to all the best of those outcomes and mitigating the risks that might arise that will deter or disrupt our ability to capture the benefits, right? And I think those are things that many people can get behind.
And, as you're here this week, having all these conversations with leaders around the world, what is really top of mind for you? What are you thinking about right now? What are the things that are on your mind this week at Davos?
Yeah, so I think we've covered lots of them. I think thinking carefully about artificial intelligence and how it is being integrated into our society, as I mentioned, from a variety of different disciplines and areas, markets. I'm thoughtful about it for our markets because at the CFTC and across the U.S. federal regulatory architecture, I think we've started to have important conversations about how best to receive this technology and how best to begin to appreciate the benefits that it can create. I think we're still a long way from fully understanding some of the difficulties. I think we have to unearth those because those known unknowns and unknowns can actually be tough for any market. So part of what our job, I think, as regulators is to ask questions, hard questions, and to keep the dialogue and conversation going. I think the market participants are always very close to the pulse of what's happening in their industries. And usually, at least for me in my time at the CFTC, I've seen that our partnership with those businesses has really been a pathway for them to help us and for us to help them in terms of the success of their firms. So I think part of my conversations here as I sit with different private sector businesses, as I meet with different regulators from around the world, is to continue that discussion, to continue that dialogue so that we're all learning and growing and moving in the right direction.
This is fantastic. Well, I have to tell you, I am just so beyond thrilled to get to have this
Thank you.
conversation with you, and so thrilled that you're at Davos having these really important conversations this week. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you. This has been wonderful.
Yeah, it's been so great. Thank you so much. It's really wonderful to have this conversation with you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you taking the
And
time.
congratulations for all of your success here at Davos.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Likewise.
You're welcome.
All right. That's it for this week's special edition of DWeb Decoded. Thanks so much.